What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me, as always, Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Kyle. I'm so excited to jump into this week 2 slate here. Tonight we got the battle for Ohio, with consensus number one picks in their respective years between Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow. We get to see Joe Burrow overtake Baker Mayfield as the best quarterback in the state. And this Sunday offers up some more intriguing matchups.
I mean, to be fair, the best quarterback in the state plays at the Horseshoe. His name is Fields, Justin. But we're something we're actually going to get to see, and we'll see how the college football lines get moved into this show. But for now, we're focusing on our week 2 betting preview. We will hit you with some NFL. Maybe I'll take a gander at the college lines. For me, it's been weird. Like I've found a couple games that I've liked, but it just feels like I feel like I'm watching college football preseason, and it's these random matchups, not a lot of conference stuff, a lot of teams. We'll see what they're doing. Sounds like some teams aren't playing, so I've really had a hard time jumping in, and I think without Ohio State playing, obviously, that doesn't help either. But let's dive in. We got 4 games as always. We'll also hit you with the best of the rest, and then before we get out of here, hit you with our best bets. Brian, I did want to go over last week's a little bit. I created a bet tracker so we could kind of keep an eye on our season totals and how we're doing and all that stuff. And you absolutely crushed it last week, my friend. You went 7-2. Yeah, 7-2. You had the Panthers over. You had the Cardinals, who ended up winning outright. You had the Rams along with me. You had some team totals. I went 4-3. Didn't love it. Carolina really let me down.
That game was horrible.
San Francisco. The Rams Cowboys game was what started off perfectly. The first half was exactly how I envisioned it. And then the second half, they just sat on the ball and didn't score very much. How they didn't get 24 points, I will never know.
I actually took a team total over 10.5 for the first half on the Rams. So I actually made out a little bit in the game.
The one thing I will say is a lot of favorites and a lot of overs hit last week. A lot of times it tends to balance out. So maybe not week 2, maybe that's week 3, but be ready for it. And try and avoid going heavy on overs, heavy on totals, because there's a big reason why these fancy casinos exist in the middle of the desert.
Yep,
and it's because of all of our year-over-year donations. So let's dive into it. Let's talk 4 games, then we'll give you guys our best bets, and we'll get out of here. Let's go to your Cowboys once again. Atlanta comes to town. The Falcons in week 1. They ended up making it look better than it really was, but my God, that team! I feel like because of their fantasy names and because of their potential and because of the Gurley situation and because they don't usually have a lot of fans, so I figured they wouldn't notice that nobody was in the stadium, and they just start so slow. And Matt Ryan ended up having a decent day, getting a couple touchdowns, and obviously Ridley and Julio and Gurley found the end zone, but their defense is bad. And despite Dallas kind of struggling in the second half against the Rams, I think they should put a hurting on that secondary, and Dallas should be looking good. Where's your head at coming into this game?
So that's funny you say that, because I've seen a few people either on Twitter or I was watching NFL Network today, and they were talking about how in the 2 games that Dak has played against the Falcons, I think he hasn't thrown a touchdown against them yet. And if that is the case, I find that to be absolutely crazy and something that will definitely be broken this weekend. I mean, we saw Russell Wilson just be uber efficient against this Falcons secondary, who, I mean, they couldn't guard a fly as it was stuck on poop last weekend. So going up against this Cowboys team who ran 3 wide receiver sets, I saw today in 85% of their plays, and then I mean, with the 3 studs they got on the outside.
Yeah, and Blake Jarwin's out, so that even opens up more opportunities to run those 3 wide receiver sets.
Yeah, for me, this game, I don't know so much about the overall total, but this one, I'm definitely leaning Cowboys team total over 28.5 at home. In 2019, the Cowboys averaged almost 33 points a game. They've scored 30 plus in 5 of the 8 games, and the 3 games that they didn't were against Buffalo, Green Bay, and Minnesota. All 3 defenses that have been able to stymie opposing offenses last year.
Yep.
The Falcons are allowing over 24 points a game on the road, 28 in 14 consecutive dome games. So this game is just tending to the Cowboys getting back on track, Dak looking like the MVP candidate we all thought heading into this season, and all 3 of those wide receivers potentially putting up similar numbers of what the Falcons did last week.
Yep, and the Dallas defense is already banged up. Obviously, no Gerald McCoy, no Sean Lee. Now Leighton Vander Esch is out another 6 weeks. You guys in like white middle linebackers just aren't a good combo.
No, they seem to just drop like flies every single season. I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't either, but yeah, no. And I saw, I think the fact that a good Falcons offense is going to be facing a depleted Cowboys defense is going to open up stuff. And I thought it was interesting that Seattle, a team that runs the ball so much, they threw a lot more, obviously, but like in terms of just success when they did run the ball, not a lot for Carlos Hyde, not a lot for Chris Carson. Chris Carson's both of his touchdowns came in the passing game. So I think that sets up too, as the Falcons are a lot more susceptible via the pass. We'll see how that trends, week over week. But it definitely seems like a good opportunity for both teams to put up a ton of points. I'm trying to look up the over under because I think
it's around 52.5, 53 right now.
Depending where you look, it's between 50 and 53.5, depending on what book you're looking at. 89% of the best, 98% of the money on the over. Everyone's on the over. I hate being that on that side, but
yeah,
I feel like that is the right side this week. I feel like taking that over. But like you mentioned, looking at stuff like team totals, looking at player props for Calvin Ridley, looking at player props for Julio Jones and Michael Gallup. Like Michael Gallup, like that he pushed off, but
they were hand fighting down the field, and it was one of those calls that it could have been different amongst the other half of the referees may not have called that. So I really wasn't upset because he was extended, but in other situations that's probably not called, or it's called defensive pass interference.
Well, so and it is interesting to see it in slow motion, because in slow motion it doesn't look as excessive because he's not moving away very fast. But if you watch it in real time, he gets shoved pretty good. The one thing I will say is, Brian, it's cool. I have access to Sunday Ticket this year, and they do 30-minute rewind basically. So you can go back and rewatch the games. You can get a lot of good information nuggets and understand why maybe a game fell the way it did, or why play calling ended the way it did. So that's always something I recommend, whether you do it that way or Game Pass or whatever, or you just find a YouTube cut up. But
or you're just a sicko like me and you watch the Game Mix channel every Sunday. So I'm literally watching all the games at once.
Which, by the way, how great was Sunday? Sunday was
it was fabulous. Even with family here distracting from football, I was still able to tune them out and just focus.
Yep, I had my setup. You can see it at Notorious KRO on Twitter. 4 TVs. It'll be interesting this week because Sunday is not only the final round of the U.S. Open, but football, but playoffs. For hockey and basketball, for potentially baseball. My brain is going to be on overload. I'm just going to have to cut some stuff out, but very, very excited to see how this goes. So I think are we simpatico in looking at team totals for both Atlanta and Dallas this week as kind of where we want to target this game?
Yeah, I definitely lean the over for the Cowboys. Atlanta, I'm still kind of wishy-washy on it because on the road they don't seem to be the same.
Okay.
They don't seem to finish as well in terms of finishing drives, scoring points in the red zone. But the Cowboys are one of those teams. They do not create turnovers, which is something that Atlanta kind of has problems with when they're in scoring position. And I think this week might be a little bit different for them. So yeah, I would be leaning the over for Atlanta, but it's probably not something I'm going to bet.
Yeah. So we'll just stick with the Cowboys. I will. Yeah, let's just stick with the Cowboys. I really want to say Atlanta over, but I worry that they kick a few too many field goals and make a few too many mistakes, and I don't know. We'll see.
I will say I love Young Ho Koo this week.
Yeah, in fact, start him up in your kicker only leagues. Let's head to Tampa Bay. As I mentioned, I believe on the Waiver Wire show, Tom Brady joined the illustrious company of Blaine Gabbert and Matt Schaub as one of 3 quarterbacks to have 3 straight games with a pick six. So that's not exactly what you're looking for, but that's what we got. This week, the Bucs are home. The Bucs, that game was interesting because there was time where it looked good and Tom was throwing a deep ball and Mike Evans was coming down. Obviously, this week, potentially without Chris Godwin. We'll see how the running game goes. This might be an interesting week to really get some Rojo in your life, despite Leonard Fournette and all this other. It was really interesting to see the touch distribution. I would like to look up. I'm gonna head to FTN bets and look up some player props on Ronald Jones just to see what's out there, because I think that.
Let me just say they're looking good right now.
Are they? Yeah. Break down this game while I do that.
All right. Yeah. Last week, Tampa Bay was one of the teams that I kind of picked on, as I picked the Saints as they were my best bet of the week all the way up to a touchdown. We saw them win by, I think it was 11. You just kind of had to expect some sort of growing pains with Tom in this offense. And you saw it a couple times on one of his interceptions to Mike Evans. There was some miscommunication as to whether Evans was supposed to continue the route or not. New Orleans, they were stuffed by Tampa the majority of the day. They didn't even eclipse 300 total team yards. So it's definitely something to watch going forward. Is Tampa Bay's defense is definitely something that we should be on notice about. But, coming into this game against Carolina, they're going to be seeing a slightly different attack and approach by this offense, where they're going to be running 3 wide receiver sets, lots of quick passing, lots of dump offs to Christian McCaffrey. We saw Alvin Kamara eat Tampa Bay's linebackers alive on his, 8 targets, 5 receptions, whatever it was. So Christian McCaffrey, I think, is going to have a day as a receiver. You're going to see them run a lot of stuff to get the ball out of Bridgewater's hands this week. With the injury to Chris Godwin, I think this game steers more towards like a 50-50 offensive split, something that we've seen Arians go to in times where they actually had the lead. We've seen him lean on that running game, and something Tom Brady is very familiar with in New England, where they would go through quarters where they throw one pass if they're winning a game. I'm in love with Rojo this week. I think that he looks like the more explosive runner than Leonard Fournette. He was very decisive in his cuts. He didn't go laterally. He just went north and south. Dude was finishing runs. He was the best receiver out of the backfield. I don't understand the people that are already dumping him in favor of Leonard Fournette with the expectation that he's going to take over. Fournette looks slow, confused. Is it
the 17-2 touch? Like I don't understand that. Like, that makes 0 sense. But it's just going to switch this week.
Yeah, I did. Although the play percentage was a little bit interesting to see that Rojo played, I think, 48% of the snaps, and LaShawn McCoy was in on 20 plays, but he only got 1 pass. Like,
so stupid.
I don't understand it. Just play Rojo and Leonard Fournette, Arians. Yeah. I don't get it. And then just give Rojo the ball. He's, to me, I think he's your second most athletic player on offense to Mike Evans on that team. So I actually think this game might be a sneaky underplay because
I was just thinking that.
Because of the absence of Chris Godwin, I think we see a little more running by Tampa. I think they jump out to an early lead, and Carolina's playing from behind the majority of the day. They're going to have a difficult time punching it in the end zone. I think they'll be able to move the ball, but when they get down close, I think Tampa will be able to stop them. It's going to be a lot of field goals and a lot of 4th down attempts to the fullback for the Panthers again.
As we saw in week 1 with the Panthers,
That was embarrassing.
the total like lack of points being scored was ridiculous. I like the under, 48 and a half. I think if you 48 or better, I'm in on it. Bovada currently has it at 47 and a half. Don't love that.
No.
But I think if you can get it at 48 or better, I'm definitely interested in it at that point. Because like you said, not only is Chris Godwin out, but these are two teams that are going to use the running back. Maybe it's a little more screen pass, check down, whatever. And then Carolina is going to check. They're not throwing it down the field. It will be interesting to see if Godwin can play, and if he doesn't, who kind of fills those shoes, whether it's Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, or maybe they use your boy OJ again, and he produces another solid.
Let me point out. I think OJ Howard was third on the team in targets, so I think that's something to also monitor. That he may be the tight end to own there in Tampa Bay, and one more thing to hit on with the Saints last week, going up against that Tampa Bay defense. I think their most explosive play of the game was late in the fourth quarter when they ran that pitch back to Hill pass to Alvin Kamara, and that was for like a 41-yard gain. And that was the only time all day that New Orleans was able to produce, 20-plus yard play. So you're not going to see that Robbie Anderson 60-plus yard touchdown catch this week.
Yeah, well, it'll be I'm very interested to watch this game. I want to see what Carolina looks like. As I mentioned, favorites and overs are probably going to be a little less likely. It tends to balance out. Be ready for some regression. Let's talk about a very interesting game. The LA Rams are heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. This line opened with the Rams as a 3-point favorite. A 3-point underdog. Currently, they are the favorite at a point and a half, depending on where you look. This is interesting because obviously last week the Washington, was wrecking havoc in the backfield, and that was something we talked about on Sunday morning. Which, by the way, join us every Sunday morning, 11:30, answering your fantasy questions, answering your betting questions, just getting you set for another awesome slate of games. Chase Young, big week. The pass rush was legit. Lane Johnson probably back this week. Miles Sanders seems like he's going to be back this week. Where's your head at this game? Like, are people overreacting a little bit, or is this line movement warranted?
Personally, to me, I think the Eagles handed that game to Washington. I'm really still on the side with the Eagles here, and I'm loving all the money coming in on the Rams, just giving me better odds with Philly. The Rams will not, let me restate that, will not be able to run the ball as successfully as they did against the Cowboys. You will not see Malcolm Brown back there breaking off 6-7 yard gains and scoring 2+ touchdowns this week. Philadelphia is one of the most difficult teams to run the ball against, with Fletcher Cox down there in the middle. I think they're going to put an onus on stopping to run, forcing Jared Goff to pass the ball, which against Philly, he's had some issues with, because they're able to get in his face. And you've seen it time and time again with Goff, that if you're able to put pressure on him, he does not have the kind of arm to be able to sling it outside the hash marks to guys. And he ain't going to be throwing people open like he did against Dallas this week. So I don't know about you, but I'm all in on Philly this week against the Rams.
So I'm a little more optimistic on Jared Goff and the Rams offense. I like
Jared Goff, but
the week 1 was so frustrating because there was so many opportunities for that game to be so much better than it was, and Malcolm Brown was obviously a factor, so whatever. But I'm a little more optimistic. That being said, I am going to back Philly in this spot. I think it makes way too much sense, especially, the one thing I will want to monitor too that I thought was interesting is teams aren't allowed, like normally in past years, like if you had 2 games on the East Coast, you could stay out there in some middle ground and have practices and not have to travel all the way back. Obviously it's 2020 and traveling is a lot better than it ever has been, and these charters are still nice. It's still rough on players, and we've seen it cause issues. So like this week, Rams are in Philly. then they come back home, and then they're back on the East Coast for week 3. So fading them the next couple weeks might not be the worst idea. Whenever I see one team get so much support and so much backing, I just traditionally go the other way, and it may not work every time. It may not work in this spot, but it just more often than not, it is the right side. Especially because we saw what the Rams did to that defense, and we know like the Eagle offense is not where we want it. But if Lane Johnson's back, Miles Sanders is back, Rager looked good. Dallas Goedert, how about Dallas Goedert?
Top 10 tight end, man.
Hell yeah. Philly, I'll take Philly this week on the money line. I think it's probably like minus. Let me look. Actually, I can tell you right now because I have all that information in front of me. Minus 105, like absolutely pounding it. Then you just have to win. Do you like the over under in that game, or are you just going to ride Philly with me?
Oh, man, I think, again, going into week 2, this is one of those games that I'm probably not going to place a bet on the over-under, but I would lean the under. As it currently sits right now on Bovada, it's 45.5. And just seeing how the Rams weren't able to take advantage of a Cowboys pass D that was without Byron Jones, no Jordan Lewis, I'm slightly worried about how good they really are going to be in our shares in Jared Goff. And then Philly, I don't know what we're going to get out of them. I think this could be a situation where they're just playing it's close to the cuff pretty much the whole game, and we see them start to throttle back the trust in Carson Wentz a little bit. So yeah. I would lean the under, but it's not something I'm touching.
Okay. Let's talk Kansas City Chiefs heading to LA to take on the Chargers. SoFi Stadium will feel just like home for the Chargers with nobody in attendance. At least this year they don't have to deal with 40 to 50% red Chiefs fans.
Yeah, true. But I think that might be to the detriment of the Chargers. I think they've been reveling in the opportunity to play road games every week.
So what are we doing with this game? Because everything in my mind says Kansas City, but then I look at the bet percentages, and like I've said, 95% of the bets, 91% of the money is on KC.
Let me just say that for as long as I can remember betting, and I mean it's over 20 years now. Yeah, that I started at a young age. I have always, and I stick by this, bet the Chargers with the points as a home underdog, no matter who was playing quarterback, no matter who they had on their team, even in a year where there's absolutely zero fans, whether it was at the soccer stadium or not. There just seems to be something when they host the game and they're big time dogs, they either just they get up for it, they play harder. I think this week is a big opportunity to see Austin Eckler rebound as a receiving threat. We saw David Johnson do really well against the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs are going to probably be without one or two of their top corners. And we've seen Tyrod Taylor, something that we kind of hit on early in the preseason, that Mike Williams is finally getting the respect with the targets that he should be getting from this offense, as he is one of the most elite wide receivers in terms of jump balls. And like we talked about Sunday morning, the fact that he's still willing to put his body before his head and go for those diving catches, even with a hurt shoulder. I think we see the Chargers keep this one extremely close until late, to where I do think the Chiefs win, but I think this game is within a touchdown pretty much for the majority of the day.
I don't want to break your heart, but since 2003 as a home underdog, the LA Chargers are 14-19. So,
well, it's 50-50 as a dog, though. Almost 50-50.
14-19, that's 42%. That's bottom 7 in the league.
That's okay. Like I said, I've always bet it. So I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I will never not bet that.
I am looking up our Kansas City Chiefs as a road favorite to see how they do, because I feel like they're a team that, despite especially the last 2 years with Mahomes, Kansas City went 4-2 as a road favorite in 2019. They went 2-2 in 2018. So 6-4, it's fine. If I'm betting this game, I'm hammering Kansas City. I think, like, obviously we saw what they did to the Texans. Obviously they're on the road this week. But I don't envision a scenario where if the Chargers had Derwin James and were fully healthy, maybe I'd feel a little better about. And I don't. I'm worried that Tyrod gets down double digits and can't come back. That's what I'm worried about. And I feel like if even if the Chargers defense plays great for 37 of the 40-ish minutes, that the Chiefs end up doing enough at the end, especially because think about that offense last week. Think about how great Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked. No involvement in the passing game. McCole Hardman wasn't involved. Obviously, Sammy Watkins only produces in week 1, so he'll be out of the way. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. There's so many guys where if one guy falters, another thing steps up. I think they win by double digits pretty easily. And I don't worry about a backdoor cover. So if I'm betting this game, I'm hammering the Chargers, despite being on the side of everyone and their mother. I just feel like that's the side to be on this week.
Well, there we go. This will be our largest contention point as Perfect. I'm pounding the Chargers with the points. Keep that line moving up, baby, because if I could get to double digits, that'll be lovely.
Yep. All right. So I will take the Chiefs. We'll call it 9.5, and I'll give you the Chargers plus the 9.5, and we'll see come Sunday night how it pans out. Okay, Brian, is there any other of the games that we haven't discussed? Any other games that garner some interest for you?
Well, I mean, I've seen the line move slightly, but that's going to the Monday night game here where the Saints are visiting the Raiders and the inaugural game there in Las Vegas in the Big Black Toilet Bowl. It's I think it's moved about a point. It opened up New Orleans -6.5. I saw it go to 5.5 on some books, up back to 6. I'm going to ride the Saints once again against the spread. Even without Michael Thomas, even with an injury popping up to Emmanuel Sanders today, for some reason he didn't practice. I just think that this defense is so underrated. We saw Marshawn Lattimore completely shut down Mike Evans yet again. The Raiders don't offer anybody on the outside that is as, dangerous as a Mike Evans. I know Henry Ruggs looked really good with Derek Carr. I know Darren Waller is a handful to deal with, but it's not like Tampa Bay didn't have other weapons besides Mike Evans out there, and none of them were able to produce massive games either. Not to mention that New Orleans is one of those teams that has been top 10 in the NFL in rushing defense over the last 2 years. I think they commit to stopping Josh Jacobs, who was able to completely dominate that game against Carolina. The Raiders are going to have to rely on Derek Carr's arm, which we've seen many, many times never be successful for them.
Yeah.
I think this is a game where you see a ton of Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. They get out to an early lead. They use the clock. Las Vegas is unable to keep the ball for very long, and I think the Saints will see about 35 minutes plus of time of possession and be in the lead by a touchdown or more early and for the rest of the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that makes sense. Obviously, in games where they can keep it close, Josh Jacobs will be awesome. I'm really curious to see how he looks in games where maybe the Raiders are down quite a bit. Obviously, if this were a game where there were fans in attendance, I might be a little more hesitant to back the Saints. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. Let's talk Jacksonville and Tennessee. This line opened at 11. If you have access to PointsBet, I say run, don't walk, because you can get the Titans -7.5. Most of them are usually somewhere between 8 and 9. I love Tennessee this week. The Titans didn't play great. That was an ugly game against Denver.
They left a lot of points on the field.
They left 10 points on the field. Even if Gostkowski struggles a little bit, Maybe he makes, it's just that game was a lot closer than it ever should have been. The Titans were better on both ends. They threw it a hell of a lot more than they did, and I'm kind of
43
excited.
attempts.
Corey Davis, and that was in a game where Derrick Henry had 31 attempts.
Yes,
so it wasn't like
baby.
they didn't run it very much. I think the Titans kicked the crap out of Jacksonville. I think the last week says a lot more about Indy than it does about Jacksonville.
Yes.
I love DJ Chark. I love, I think Minshew's interesting this week. But I think the Titans win by double digits and probably more. This is a 17-point blowout. Like, I'm looking at alternate lines because I think there's
those are the best.
I think there's a lot of potential. There was one you liked. Who did we talk
about? I took New Orleans. I think it was
Pleaser, yeah.
Yeah, it was New Orleans minus 9.5, and was it Arizona with the pick'em?
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways,
I forget what it was.
I think it was New Orleans. Like we're talking like 6 or 7, and that ended up working out nicely. So, anyways, so yeah, I'm looking at Titans. I think that makes a ton of sense. The other
just real quick.
Hit me.
Before we leave this game, the other bet that I'm looking at that I'm going to be pounding the hell out of this weekend is Derrick Henry over the rushing yards totals. Whether it's 105, it's minus money there. 115, you're still close to even money. But I'm looking at over 125 rushing yards at currently sitting at 1.5 to 1 odds here. Dude has career best average of 90 yards a game against them. He's averaging 5.4 yards a carry against them. Career best 9 touchdowns in the 8 games against them. He ran for 159 last year and 2 touchdowns in week 11 against them. This is coming off a game where he ran for 116 on 31 attempts against the Broncos defense that was there to stop him. Jacksonville, they're the Jaguars, and Tennessee might be without A.J. Brown. Corey Davis broke out, but he's also nursing a hamstring injury. This could be a 40-plus carry game for Derrick Henry like we saw him do at Alabama, and there's no way they're going to be able to stop him.
Love it. Love the call. Jets, Niners. Everyone's pounding the Niners, and some reason that line's at 6.5. I don't get it, but I'm not betting the Niners in this spot. Like, I'm worried. Like, I think this 2 things will either happen. One is, the Niners are amazing. Why do we ever doubt them against the Jets? Or there might be troubles in San Francisco. I think the Cardinals are a lot better than we expect, and so that's why we saw a result. We did. No George Kittle is concerning. Bring in Mohamed Sanu is concerning. But they also have Tevin Coleman. I think Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, I think all these guys run wild.
Brandon Ayuk is.
If I had to bet it, I'd bet the Niners. But just the fact that it's moving the way it is, it scares me.
I like that game as a sneaky overplay with Richard Sherman out now. I think we see a little more Brashad Perryman, because if Jamison Crowder has to miss the game, I see them going a little bit deeper down the field. I think the absence of Le'Veon Bell kind of opens up the offense slightly with them not having to kind of force the ball to him. Maybe they just completely abandon the run.
All I'm saying is look for Frank Gore to score a touchdown prop because I feel like that is free money this week.
Yes, and to your point about Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert, the Jets are pretty good against the run, so I do like the running backs to see a little more action in the passing game this week, which is why I'm still on Jimmy G, even without his weapons, as a streaming pick from the quarterback position.
I like it. Minnesota +3 at Indy. This is a game where I feel like both of these teams kind of let it get away a week ago, and I'm very curious to see if either can rebound in a big way. I like Minnesota if I had to back either team, especially we got to fade Phillip. That's kind of the rule. But I think the Vikings are good. I think they have some question marks in the secondary, but I think their front seven's really good. I think they can run the ball really well, and I think if Kirk Cousins does an efficiency move like Gardner Minshew did a week ago, I think the Vikings can absolutely win this game. So I am looking at that. You had a bet in the Dolphins Buffalo game.
Yeah, so this is another one where I'm looking at rushing yard prop, and that's for Josh Allen this week with over 45 rushing yards against them. Dude has had 4 or more carries in 28 of his 29 career games. He's He had 29 carries for an average of 7 a game in his 4 games against the Dolphins. He's averaged over 80 yards a game in 3 of the 4. Miami is coming off a game where they allowed old man Cam Newton to run for 75 and 2 touches. So if you're looking at, a prop play here where the Dolphins offer up a stingier defensive backfield than most people realize with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard back there, I think that was a lot. That had a lot to do with the Patriots kind of limiting what they were doing in the passing game. And I think Buffalo, for as good as they looked last week, I think they go more towards the Bills that we saw last year with about 55% running plays. And we see Josh Allen, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary all produce decent games this week.
Well, I mean, outside of Zach Moss, sure. I like it, Brian. All right, let's hit a little recap before we talk best bets. So you have the Cowboys team total over, you have the Eagles money line, you have Chargers plus 9.5, and you have Saints minus 5.5. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I got the Eagles money line. I have the Chiefs minus 9.5, and I have the Titans. We'll say 8.5. Those are my 3 bets so far. If I find anything else, I'll throw it out on Twitter. I like I said, I like Frank Gore to score a touchdown. Maybe I'll look at 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen can still be found for a decent price to win MVP. So if you want to take a shot at that, I'm mad at myself because apparently Kyler Murray was 100-something to 1 to win the MVP coming in. That number got obliterated early. So note to self, check that out next year before the lines get destroyed. But Brian, I need to know, what is your week 2 best bet? Because last week, and I'll be tracking these as well, you went 1-0 on your best bet. You had the, let's see, what was your best bet? You had the Saints. That was your best bet. They cruised. I had the Rams team total. I was feeling great about that in the first half. In the second half, not so much. So, yeah.
All right. I was going to go with New Orleans once again, but just for the sake of variety here, I'm going to back my favorite team, much to the dismay of myself, and I'm taking the Cowboys team total over 28.5. I think we see them get there in the third quarter. I see them getting close to 40 this game. So yeah, I'm all in that 28.5, and I'm even looking at those increased ones where you can bet them a little bit over that for more plus money.
Yep. The one thing I will say is if you're going to be near a way to bet live, I would look at that. I would keep an eye on that Cowboys Falcons game. Wait for the Cowboys to get up a little bit, and then maybe you can get the Falcons plus 7, plus 10, and then watch Matt Ryan do his thing in the fourth quarter, come back and make it look a lot closer than it was the whole game, and make some money. So I like that quite a bit. I can't bet my own team as my best bet. Like I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm gonna go with the Eagles money line as my best bet. We'll see how that pans out. I think that's the right side. It doesn't feel good, especially after the way the 2 teams played last week. But
it makes me sick to my stomach going for the Eagles this week, mind you.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Eagles, Eagles.
All right, that will be us on Sunday morning. As a reminder, we will be here live Sunday morning, 11:30 Eastern. Bring your fantasy questions, bring your betting questions, bring your general nonsense questions. We'll be here to discuss them all. Enjoy week 2. If you have start sit questions, all that stuff, don't hesitate to hit us up on our Twitters. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're on the podcast, at Notorious KRO, at Greasy Rules 14, follow us, ask us questions. We're always down to give you our insight. Sunday went pretty well. I'd say for the most part we did well. My Jared Goff call, not so much, but it is what it is. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.